Well, hello everyone, I finally made my mic to work. So in this first video I would like to start talking about something that it's been going around in my mind, and this is the notion that you never know where you're going to end up. This has come from a statement that we all have heard, this idea that if you work hard enough you can get what you want, or you can get what you want. While I explore this idea, you can see the video here in the background. It's just me modeling a raincoat, a sailor's raincoat. It's of my mom's. I found it laying around and I thought it would be fun to model it for you. So about this idea, we've all heard stories about people, success stories of people that worked hard and they finally got what they wanted. But I would like to talk about the other side of the story, because it turns out that if you go through the internet, there's not much information about it. Obviously, people that don't make it don't end up telling us that story and how it went. And it seems to me that if you work hard towards one goal, I think, well, it's like the three things can happen. So the first one is obviously you get what you want, and then the second one is that you don't. Now this could happen for various reasons, but to me the best analogy would be that you're making an audition for a movie. If you don't get selected for the role, it doesn't mean that you didn't put the hard work or anything like that. It just means that you are not meant for that role. And that could happen easily, I bet, in many jobs, because as 3D artists there are many type of jobs that, for example, one type of job could be very industrial oriented, like you do the same job over and over again, and there's just people that are not cut for that type of job. And the third thing that could happen is the thing that happened to me. It's something gets in your way, and I don't mean that in a bad way. So I'm talking about this because when I started taking seriously this business of 3D artistry, I decided pretty early on that what I wanted to do was to be a character artist, because it encompasses a lot of disciplines. You have to be able to model props, sculpt faces, the hair, and have a notion of style, because you have to combine a lot of clothing and colors and all that. So I thought it was a really good combination of a lot of disciplines, and that was my goal. That was the thing that I was really trying to achieve, to be a character artist. And after my 2 years studying 3D at school, I took a lot of courses to learn the trade, because at school we didn't had much of that. It was more animation oriented, so I wanted to learn from the masters. And while I was at it, I applied for numerous job offers as a junior, as an internship or whatever. I didn't got any of those. Of course, that can be easily attributed because I only have one character finished up. So that obviously plays a part. But something happened while I was trying to land that job. I got this phone call of this person who was offering me to go to Germany, to a German company, a clothing company, to explore the 3D technologies in the fashion industry. I'm saying this because it seems to me that sometimes this notion of work hard and you will get what you want, it seems to me that it can get in your way. Because had I said no because I wanted to be a character artist, what I am going to do in a fashion industry? I am not particularly interested in fashion, at least not in the current state of fashion. I would have been interested maybe in the 1800s, but not particularly now. And I could have easily said no, because I wanted to maybe focus more on my characters and building a solid portfolio. And so this brings me back to the idea that sometimes if you get too obsessed with an idea, so to speak, it can sort of blind you. And I feel like sometimes people get too caught up in what they think it's the best for them, or a goal that they have set for themselves, that the options, the rest of the options that they could have, get obscured by the obsession, so to speak, that they have to be that what they want to be. In my case, a character artist. And I am saying this because to me it was so good that I said yes to that phone call, because it has opened me a lot of opportunities that I hadn't even contemplated. And even to this day, I am still working out what's going to happen, because so many things have opened up. A whole world has opened up as a 3D artist. And so to end up with this idea, I would just like to tell everyone that's listening that although I think it's great that you have a goal and that you work hard to get it, don't be blinded by this idea. And of course, keep your eyes open for any opportunity, because you never know where you're going to end up. And it's no good to turn away things that could possibly be something that you are actually good at, you know? Now on to another topic. I was asked to talk about how the 3D in the fashion industry works in my experience. And so I want to start by saying that the fashion industry is a very old industry, and it's very, very complicated. Even after a year, I can't even explain how it actually works. I've only been in one company, and I'm pretty sure that there's infinite variations. But I am going to talk about the things that, you know, would concern us as 3D artists. So the thing that struck me most when I got to this company is that, coming from Marvelous Designer, if we want a design, we have to make the pattern and then build the garment on the side of the window. Well, in the fashion industry, at least in big companies, the usual thing is to have a department of pattern makers, actually more than one department, and then another one with the designers. Now the pattern makers, they're usually different teams. So you can imagine a department that only focuses on women, or one part of Europe, because of proportions of the body. And the pattern makers, what they do, roughly speaking, pattern makers are sort of like the scientists, in my mind, of the trade. They are concerned about very precise numbers. They talk in millimeters. They are concerned with the fitting and with the shape. And what they do is they develop these base patterns, these very basic pieces that are used by the rest of the company. So, for example, you can imagine a base pattern for skinny jeans, and then another base pattern for the straight ones. And that's usually what they do. And then you have the designers, which they are sort of the artistic department of the company. Of course, in big companies, they are very restrained, because big companies have to maintain, constant style, and they have constraints. They have people that are above them that have to decide the colors and all that. But what they do is, usually using something like Illustrator, they design using maybe the base pattern, they design over it. So they would take a straight jean and decide that, we're going to do a double turn up, or, things like that. And then that design gets sent to a supplier anywhere in the world, and they would have the base patterns, and they will develop a prototype that has to be sent over and all that in order to get approved and all that. But the interesting thing for us is that they're separated. Two different kind of people work in this area. So when I got involved in this company, my role was not very defined at first. I suspect that they had no idea what to do with the 3D. It was something like a new toy that they thought it was really cool, but had no idea what to do with it. And my job pretty fast became sort of a consultant, because I would actually tell them what the 3D stuff could and could not do. Because they would ask me things like, oh, can you 3D scan this? And they, yeah, of course I can. I would 3D scan it, and they would be like, oh, can you now change the color of this part of the pattern? I was like, no, that's not how it works, and stuff like that. So part of my job would be to actually teach them things that for us, they're like really, really basic. And then after that, because of my role, sort of like a consultant, they put me in sort of charge of deciding which programs would be the best for the company. So at first they had no initial idea of what they were going to use, and they used this this opportunity to experiment with different programs. So we had a lot of offers from different companies, because there's not only Marvelous Designer. There is, for example, the one that I'm using, Claw, which is the more industrial-oriented sister of the same company. There is Optitex, Lectra, Brosware, Gerber. There's a bunch of them, and after seeing the presentations of most of them, we decided we're going to try out Brosware, Claw, and Gerber. Now Gerber was a little bit of an odd decision, because the pattern makers already use computer programs to do pattern making. In this instance, in this company, they used Gerber, and they are now jumping into the 3D world. So they wanted to, since we're using this program already, how about testing their 3D capabilities? It was rubbish, in my opinion. It didn't work very well. To me, at least, it was not very intuitive. Then the next one, Brosware, it was the second one that was, most promising, at least in a visual way. Although coming from the CAD industry, it was very tricky and, to me, very restrictive. And finally, Claw, which I had already experienced with Marvelous Designer. So to me, it was like it was easy, and so I basically became sort of a teacher. We took, of course, official training from these companies, but I became sort of like a teacher of the people that were from the company that were involved in learning and adopting these new programs. And also we had to do something to show the capability. So alongside all that, so my typical day would be, I was mainly in the denim department for men. So a typical day would be for me I would get in at work, depending on the season. I would attend to a meeting where they would define the styles for the season. So the designers would say, speak their ideas, and then the head of the department would say, okay, I'm taking this and that, and they would make this collection of designs, 20 of them maybe, and the usual thing for them would be to just carry them out and make the prototypes. But this time I would in parallel do the same in 3D. So some of the designs didn't made the prototype stage, because with the 3D we could see that some of the designs were horrible, they weren't working. Already in 3D you could see that, and so that's what I would do. I would take the base pattern, would take the design, and I would do sort of like the supplies work. I would carry out the design so that the head of the department could judge if that was worth prototyping or not. Now, of course, you can imagine that you could extrapolate this even further. You could decide, even skip the prototype phase and look at the design already and decide if that was worth producing or not. But that was sort of my role in the company. Now, for the future, it's not obvious to me how this industry is going to evolve. One idea that we had, or at least I had, because we would do many meetings talking about how this could be implemented. So one way that could be implemented in the future in some new companies or companies that will take 3D in the future, because this is going to happen. I mean, it happened with IKEA. It has already happened. I mean, a long time ago with all the mechanical stuff, with architecture. So it's eventually going to happen, I believe. And one way that this could be implemented would be the designers would actually design on paper, maybe. This idea came because the pattern makers would tell me a lot of times that they like the designers to not think about patterns at all, which was very odd for me at first, because I was like, well, why not? Because they should know if this is feasible or not. But the pattern makers would say, no, it's okay. They should think outside the box. It is our job to make that happen. But of course, you need a designer that trusts the pattern maker, because it's no good if a designer, is asking all the time for something that the pattern maker is telling him that it's not going to work. So the possible way of implementing would be the designers just purely designing the pure art, making even drawings just as suggestions, and then pattern makers using these kind of programs to carry out their designs and solve them in 3D to see if they work and make changes live. And then finally we came to the realization pretty early on that there is going to be work for 3D artists, because pattern makers can learn to use this program, but they cannot learn. I mean, they shouldn't be learning how to model belts, how to model hard surface or things like that, trims and objects that are going to go on top of it. So jobs for 3D artists, they're bound to happen, because there has to be someone that's going to take the pattern maker's product and bring it to life. Because probably what is going to happen is that these technologies are going to be so good that you will be able to put them directly into the internet and sell them. We actually had a little test where we put some 3D only garments on the internet along real stuff, and we saw no difference in the sellings. It wasn't like the 3D stuff was sold less or not. Actually, one of the best selling garments was a digital one. So of course that was with simple things, and some of the garments are more difficult to do, especially denim, where I was mostly involved. But the reality is that probably in the future the things that are going to be shown in the internet, maybe to sell, are going to be digital, and probably the costume is going to be more involved in the design than it is now, where they actually base their decisions into previous data and all that. So to end up, I would like to say that so my plan is to make more videos like this, where I can talk about various topics surrounding this new area for 3D that I think is very interesting, and I think that many people is going to be very interested on, because if you like costumes, this is actually a very feasible very feasible position for someone that likes clothing. And actually, if you think about it, at least to me, that's how I see it. Clothing is just costumes. They're formal and socially accepted ones, but they're costumes. And also, I would like to make videos explaining, because I am no pattern maker, I am no fashion designer, but I've spent a great deal of time talking with them, taking some crash courses of fast pattern making, and I'm learning day by day, just by the sheer time that I'm spending around all this. And it's something that at least in my case was not very known. So I will also make videos explaining why some patterns are done the way they are, because I'm in the internet I see that a lot of tutorials, they just tell you to make this shape and that's it. They don't explain the why, which was something that I wanted to learn when I took the crash course in pattern making. Like, why do you make the sleeve this way or that way, or what's the reason behind all these lines? And so I would like to make videos of that, you know, very small but very intense videos on just focusing maybe on the sleeve and things like that, and maybe other ones where I can make like this one, an entire garment, maybe not as complicated as this one, but yeah, something like that. So yeah, tell me how you like this video. If you have any idea, or you know, for future videos, just tell me your thoughts on it. And now you can enjoy the rest of the renders that I did for this video. Thanks very much and enjoy.
you